Hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk about TrueSight Operations Management cloud monitoring capabilities. And specifically, I'm going to talk about three things. First of all, our public cloud monitoring capabilities with Amazon Web Services Knowledge Module and Microsoft Azure Knowledge Module. Then I'm going to show you our private cloud monitoring using an Openstack Knowledge Module, as well as remote Linux monitoring capabilities. And then finally, I'm going to show you a hybrid monitoring scenario using all three: OpenStack, Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft Azure. All right, guys, here we go. So I want to start by taking a look at my Amazon Web Services monitoring setup. So I'm going to go to Infrastructure Policies, and I have a policy here, and I'm going to call it multi-cloud. We'll use this policy for the duration of this video. So in my multi-cloud policy, I have a number of different KMs configured. So I have a monitoring configuration here for Amazon Web Services. And you can see I'm going to use my 2.0 version. This is a beta, and we're going to be releasing this in December. However, this is the version 1.2.10 is the current version available today. However, in December, we're going to be offering a new version. So I'm going to look at this one. So if I go into Amazon Web Services and click Edit, that would be the same as if you clicked Add Monitor Configuration. You would get this screen. The difference is here, let me just show you. So if I click on Add Monitor Configuration, here I get to navigate to Amazon Web Services, which is the second option. That's going to tell me that I've already selected one. But you can see that in my case, I have two different versions here because I have a beta version on my system. But I'm actually going to go back and look at the version that I have configured. And in here, you can see I've provided a Java path, and I've selected Amazon Web Services, both in the profile and the monitor type. And I'm just going to edit my account configuration. And you can see that here I have just a generic account name. This is actually what shows up as a container in TrueSight Operations Management. And then you have this access key. So if I go in, I actually have my Amazon environment open. The access key is this number here. So you get a series of characters, and you also get a secret key whenever you create your access. So each user has its own separate security credentials that allows you to connect as that user. And I think you get up to 2 different access keys. You enter your access key and your secret key here, and then you have the ability to select the different services that you're going to monitor within Amazon Web Services. And I have everything selected. And you also have the ability to do filtering both on the region. So in the case of my environment within Amazon, I think most of my monitoring is done at the US West region. So let me find a service and I'll show you. So Lambda as an example. I have a few Lambda functions configured, and you can see that mine is set for Oregon, which is under the US West region. So anyway, in the monitor configuration, you can filter for included or excluded from a region. So for example, if I know I have Lambda functions defined in US West, but also in a European region, I can filter out the European regions here, or I can only include US West as an example. Same thing for EC2. So EC2 is your enterprise compute environment. So this would be VMs and so forth. And then we also have the ability to do Lambda function filters specifically, and this is filtering on the name. So again, this capability is not available until December, but when this is available, you have the ability to filter based on the name. And additionally, we have the ability to turn on custom metrics. So really quick about Lambda. What Lambda is, infrastructure-free compute environment. And what that means is Amazon is providing a service allowing you to execute code, either Python, Java, or Node.js code, based on a series of Amazon Web Service triggers. So for example, an S3 trigger, so an S3 file becomes available with a certain regular expression, or some query runs in DynamoDB that creates a trigger. But anyway, there's some service event that creates a trigger that will invoke a function that you write either in Python, Java, or Node.js. And then that function execution creates by default 4 metrics. Invocation count, and this is how many times my function was called. Invocation duration, how long did the function take to execute? And then errors, invocation errors, were there any problems with my function when it executed? And then throttled invocations is essentially Amazon throttling the performance or execution time of your function based on how resource intensive it was. Now, we are offering, as I showed previously, we're offering the ability to do custom metrics as well based on a set of tokens. So if the user in their function definition writes out to CloudWatch logs using a specific pattern and a token, then we will allow them to create custom metrics and have those metrics picked up in Amazon. So this is what the configuration looks like. I'm just gonna go back and show you the output of this monitoring. So if I go to monitoring devices, I'll show you some of the VMs that I currently have set up within Amazon. So everything in here you see that starts with EC2. So all of these servers are various VMs that I have running on Amazon Web Services. So in my multi-cloud example here, under monitoring groups, I have a group of devices from various cloud sources. So this server, EC252, all 4 of these are all based on Amazon Web Services. I have this server, which is based on Azure, or it's hosted in Azure, and then I have a TrueSight server as well. So TrueSight is essentially a demo environment for Openstack, which is a private cloud solution. So I'm going to move on and show you the Microsoft Azure configuration. So going back to infrastructure policies and my multi-cloud monitoring policy, I'm going to show you my Microsoft Windows Azure 2.0 KM configuration. So this was actually released in September of this year. If I go into my configuration here, the Azure account, so you can see we have support for virtual machines, storage, application services, Microsoft SQL Server and databases, as well as the Cloud Services Classic. So when we first released the Azure KM, or it was the Windows Azure Knowledge Module, it was limited to this, which is Cloud Services Classic, which was Microsoft's first platform as a service offering. These are the monitoring options. I'm not monitoring the Cloud Service Classic, but within each of these, you have multiple different filtering options. So you have a subscription filter. So your enterprise account may have multiple different subscriptions, each of those subscriptions servicing different parts of the business, or they have different offer IDs and price points and so on. But anyway, you can go in your monitor configuration and filter based on subscription. You can filter based on resource groups. So when I apply all of my assets in the new portal, as an example, I'll show you. You go here. This is your resource group. So all of my resources that I have deployed in Azure, I have in this resource group, AZR test, which is my Azure test. And I only have one VM out here, I think. But you can see here are the things that I have currently deployed, but I could have multiple resource groups as well. Each resource group could be a business unit, it could be a region, whatever makes sense for your enterprise business. It could be an application, but however the customer chooses to organize, you can filter based on those resource groups, each of your monitoring policies. So you could have one monitoring policy for all of your Azure monitoring, and then within each monitor configuration, you can have a specific monitor configuration for each of these resource groups, as an example. Same thing with virtual machines. If you have a naming convention that you use for your virtual machines, you can use that as the basis for filtering, and likewise for storage. Okay, so that's pretty much it with the configuration of your Azure monitoring. I'm just going to back out of here and show you my Azure VM, and I think you probably saw it a moment ago. So here you go, AZR RHEL, or Azure Red Hat Linux #1. So this is an Azure VM that I have running. Now if I go into this guy and into the monitoring, I can see that the monitor name, so my Azure is the name of my monitor configuration. This is the subscription that I have currently with Microsoft Azure, and then AZR test is the resource group that VM lives inside of. And then you can see if I had multiple things in here. So for example, if I had network or if I had storage in this resource group, you would see those as expandables under here as well. But in this case, I have virtual machines, AZR RHEL01, and then last but not least, I wanted to show you Openstack. So if I go back to my policy again, to my multi-cloud monitoring policy, edit my configuration. I have the Openstack KM. So anyway, I go back into edit, and you can see I have the 1.0 version of OpenStack. I'm using the Keystone API version 2, and I have an environment configuration called OpenStack test. All right, and here you see my environment name, the host that I'm connecting to and port, Here are my Openstack credentials. I'm turning on full data monitoring for both Horizon and project metrics. I provided a KM path or a path to my JVM. And obviously you see the ability to do device mapping. So device mapping is turned on by default. And what I wanted to show you in summary essentially was you can create, like I've done in this case, a multi-cloud example. So imagine you have an application where your database or some service was running on-premise in OpenStack. You had a web tier running on Amazon, and maybe you had a middleware tier running in Azure. Now I don't know why you would do that. That's an unrealistic architecture, but anyway, the point that I'm making is that you can have virtual private cloud connections, the ability to connect these clouds together. And with the usage of the KMs that I've shown here, you can build pretty complex application models that would allow you to do monitoring across all of these. So in this particular application model, I have monitoring for both OpenStack, Amazon Web Services VMs, as well as Azure VMs. All right, guys, hopefully that was helpful. And just keep in mind that even if we don't have native cloud monitoring capabilities for a given technology, say Google Cloud or Oracle or even a private cloud platform like CloudStack, as you know, with TrueSight Operations Management using Patrol, you can deploy Patrol agents on each of these VMs as a standard image and connect to your TrueSight infrastructure management service and pretty much bring your whole environment back together again, regardless of where it's deployed. So as long as you have the ability to talk to a cloud environment and or deploy agents on the VMs in those environments, you can do cloud monitoring. So I would not hesitate to position TrueSight OM for cloud monitoring today, especially where we have native coverage for Amazon, Azure, and OpenStack. Hopefully this was helpful, and you guys have a great day. Take care.